Wait, run that again, human. You're telling me you solved the harmonic cipher. Dr. Elara Voss didn't look up from the holographic lattice shimmering above the alien console. Her fingers glided across the light, recalculating every glowing node. No, she said calmly, her voice cutting through the static hum of the observatory. I didn't just solve it. I understood it. Across the chamber, 6 alien professors froze. Their translucent skin rippled with shifting colors, an instinctive display of distress. The eldest among them, Professor Kathir of the Tian Collective, exhaled a low, resonant tone that reverberated through the air. It sounded almost like mourning. The chamber lights dimmed to a trembling pulse as the translation algorithm struggled to keep up with the flood of alien data pouring into the system. Outside the observatory dome, the gas giant Zenithia glowed like a bleeding wound against the void. Elara straightened. Sweat dotted her brow despite the sub-zero temperature. Her eyes gleamed sharp, alive, relentless. You said this cipher was unsolvable, she said, voice calm but edged with challenge. You said your people have tried for 30,000 years. Kathir's tendrils coiled tightly, the alien equivalent of clenching fists. Because it was unsolvable. The cipher was a creation of the first architects, our gods. It encodes the harmonic laws of existence itself. No sentient being could decipher it. Elara smiled faintly. Guess that makes me a bad guess, then. The air seemed to thicken. The other professors whispered in clicks and chimes, their tones cascading in panic. Lights flickered across their robes, shifting from blue to a sharp, anxious white. In the center of the observatory, the cipher rotated, an impossibly complex structure of intersecting frequencies glowing in fractal patterns. But now it moved differently. Where once it had shimmered in perfect incomprehension, now it responded. The lattice pulsed in sync with Elara's heartbeat. Doctor, whispered Captain Harlan, her expedition partner and the only other human on station. He stood by the door, hand hovering near his plasma sidearm, not because of the aliens, but because of what they might do next. You're freaking them out. Good, Elara murmured. They should be freaked out. The cipher isn't a lock. It's a test. Kathir's bioluminescent eyes widened. A test? Elara turned to him, her expression unreadable. It's looking for consciousness that can improvise. You tried to map it like mathematics. But it's music, Professor. The universe doesn't calculate, it sings. A deep rumble shook the observatory. The cipher blazed white, filling every corner with violent light. Panels split open. Data screamed across the walls in cascading glyphs. The professors scrambled back, uttering tones of despair. It's activating, one of them cried. No one was supposed to reach this point. Elara didn't move. Her voice was steady, hypnotic. What happens if it completes? Kathir's answer came as a whisper. The architects return. The cipher's glow intensified, a blinding pulse that made the air taste metallic. Warnings blared in 6 languages. Harlan shielded his eyes. Elara, whatever this is, turn it off. I can't, she said quietly. It's listening now. The pulse quickened once, twice, thrice, and then stopped entirely. The silence that followed was absolute, heavier than gravity. The cipher hung motionless in the air, all light drawn into its center. Then, from the heart of the silence, came a single note. Soft, impossibly beautiful, vibrating through bone and thought. It wasn't sound. It was meaning. Every alien fell to their knees. Even the translation devices went dark, unable to render what they were hearing. Elara stared into the radiant sphere, eyes wide, lips parted. It's speaking, Harlan's voice cracked. To who? Elara turned, her gaze distant, almost reverent. To us. To humanity. A shockwave of energy rippled outward, and the cipher shattered, its fragments forming a trail of light that vanished into the stars. When the brightness faded, only silence remained. Kathir rose slowly, trembling. You've doomed us all, he whispered. Elara looked him dead in the eyes. Or maybe, she said, I just started the next chapter of creation. The station lights flickered once more, and then a message appeared across every console. In perfect English, hello, children of the third sun. We've been waiting. Elara, what did you do? Captain Harlan's voice cut through the smoky air as alarms blared in alien harmonics. The observatory shuddered under unseen forces. Every console flickered between colors, symbols, and languages not yet invented. Elara Voss stood frozen in the center of it all, Her pupils dilated, reflecting streaks of alien light. The cipher's remnants still floated around her, tiny crystalline shards pulsing with faint luminescence. "I didn't do anything," she whispered. "It chose us." Professor Kathir slammed his clawed hands against the nearest console. "No, you've broken containment. The harmonic cipher wasn't meant to be touched, let alone completed. The architects sealed it for a reason." The other professors were already retreating toward the door, their voices a mixture of panic and awe. "If the architects return," one hissed in their chiming language, "we are nothing but dust." Elara spun toward them. "Dust doesn't solve puzzles, Professor. Dust doesn't sing the universe back to life." Her voice was calm, but her eyes gleamed with defiance. "Maybe your people feared what you didn't understand. Humans? We thrive on it." A deep resonance filled the observatory. The lights flickered, then stabilized. The holographic panels rearranged themselves into a spiral, one that pulsed like a living heart. Then, words began to form, shimmering in the air. "Welcome, Consciousness Class 3. Humanity." Elara and Harlan stared. Kathir's breathing quickened. "It recognizes you. It's classifying you," he said, his voice trembling. The message continued. "Your evolutionary impulse has breached the silence. Access to the harmonic archive is now authorized." "What's the harmonic archive?" Harlan muttered, glancing between Elara and the flickering projection. Kathir's skin dimmed to a sickly gray. "The sum of all architect knowledge. Forbidden. The archive holds the design codes of galaxies, the blueprints of consciousness itself. It's the foundation of existence." Elara stepped closer, the light reflecting off her face. "Then why hide it? Why bury it behind riddles?" Kathir turned to her sharply. "Because knowledge creates human, and creation without understanding destroys. The last species that tried to access it vanished." Harlan swallowed hard. "You're saying the architects didn't die. They were erased." "Not erased," Kathir said softly, absorbed. "The cipher was their failsafe." A rumble vibrated through the floor. The air grew heavy, shimmering with particles of light. Elara could feel it, like a heartbeat not her own thrumming inside her skull. A whisper brushed the edge of her thoughts. "You are not the first. You may be the last, Elara," Harlan said, his voice barely above a breath. "It's talking to you, isn't it?" She nodded slowly, lost in the glow. "It's ancient, older than any star we know. It's not just speaking, it's remembering." Kathir lunged forward, grabbing her wrist. "You must stop." "Disconnect now!" The projection flared. Every alien in the room screamed as the sound waves twisted the air. Harlan pulled his weapon but froze as a massive symbol appeared. On the central hollow, an impossible, geometric pattern that seemed to move through. Dimensions, the ciphers. Fragments began to orbit the spiral of light like moons. The message shifted again, growing brighter, almost defiant. Access granted. Humanity registered as successor entity. The professors gasped in unison. Kathir fell to his knees. "Successor?" Harlan turned to Elara. "What does that mean?" She stared at the words, her expression unreadable. "It means we just inherited the universe." A sudden blast of white energy tore through the chamber. Every console exploded into light. The alien professors dissolved into streams of bioluminescent mist, screaming as they were drawn toward the spiral. "Elara," Harlan shouted, reaching for her. The floor vanished beneath them. For a heartbeat there was nothing. No sound, no air, no time. Then they were somewhere else. The sky was black and silver, filled with floating monoliths the size of cities. Rivers of light coursed between them like veins. They stood on a transparent surface that rippled like water beneath their boots. "Elara," Harlan whispered. "Where the hell are we?" She looked around, awe mixing with terror. "Inside the archive," she breathed. This is what they built." The whisper returned, louder now. "Everywhere at once. Welcome to the Origin Vault. Your species has achieved the impossible. But now..." A pause. Almost like a breath before a storm. "You must prove you deserve it." The horizon split open, revealing an approaching wave of light, vast, sentient, unstoppable. Harlan drew his weapon out of instinct. "Prove it how?" The voice echoed inside their minds, soft and terrible. "By surviving what ended the architects." The wave roared closer, swallowing the stars, Elara's pulse quickened, but her gaze stayed fixed on the oncoming storm. Then let's show them, she whispered. What humanity's made of, the light hit. Everything turned white. Elara, get up! Harlan's voice was distant, muffled under the roar of light. The ground trembled as if reality itself were cracking open. He reached for her, dragging her out of the searing glow. When his vision cleared, they were no longer on solid ground. They stood in an infinite expanse of shifting geometry, planes of light folding in and out of existence, casting reflections of things that could not be. Towers formed, disintegrated, then reassembled in new patterns, each one humming with energy. Elara stumbled, blinking against the brilliance. This place, she murmured. It's alive. The voice returned, calm, resonant, and almost sorrowful. The architects designed the vault to test consciousness worthy of inheritance. You have opened it, human. Now you must endure the trial. Elara clenched her fists. Endure what? Creation itself, the space convulsed. From the shifting light, figures began to form. Hollow silhouettes of radiant energy, each one resembling a different species. They moved with precision, grace, and cold indifference. Kathir's voice echoed faintly, a memory carried through dimensions. The last species that entered this place ceased to exist. The trial reclaims the unworthy. Harlan took a step back. They're the architects? Elara's eyes narrowed. No. They're what's left of them. The figures turned toward the humans. Without mouths, they somehow spoke, their words cutting straight into the mind. Prove your right to create. Prove your right to continue. Elara's voice rang out, steady but burning with defiance. We don't need your permission. We're not your successors. We're your equals. The architect's shades reacted. Light flared, and suddenly the floor beneath them split apart. The humans plummeted into a void of swirling starlight. They landed hard on a metallic surface. A new landscape unfolded, a wasteland of broken machines and fractured constellations. Time itself seemed fractured. Echoes of past civilizations shimmered in the air like dying memories. Harlan groaned, clutching his shoulder. I don't like this test already. Elara helped him up. Then we pass it fast. From the darkness ahead, one of the architect shades emerged, taller than any human, its body a lattice of glowing symbols. You seek the archive, yet you do not understand the cost. Knowledge consumes. Elara met its gaze unflinching. Then teach us. Don't threaten us. Teaching is no longer possible. Creation turned on its creator once. Never again it raised a hand. Light surged. The air screamed. The very fabric of space peeled apart, revealing waves of entropy rolling toward them, pure unmaking. Harlan raised his weapon and fired instinctively. The bolt passed through the figure, fracturing the air but doing nothing. Yeah, he muttered. Didn't think that'd work. Elara's mind raced. If this was a test, there had to be rules. She remembered the cipher, the harmonic equations, the way it resonated with her heartbeat. Sound, she whispered. It's harmonics. It responds to resonance. She tapped her wrist console, adjusting the frequency of its pulse emitter. If creation sings, she murmured, let's give it a melody. The device hummed to life. A low vibration filled the air, rippling through the fabric of space. The entropy wave slowed, hesitated, almost listening. The architect shade tilted its head. Elara took a deep breath and began to hum. It was a fragile sound, human, imperfect, trembling. Yet it carried something the shades did not understand, emotion. The sound grew, echoing across the wasteland, weaving into the frequencies around them. The architect figure flickered. Its luminous form wavered between brilliance and shadow. Emotion. Chaos. Unpredictability. Elara smiled faintly. That's called being alive. The shades surrounding them began to falter. Their voices overlapped, collapsing into confusion. The harmonic field destabilized. Impossible. Consciousness type 3. Violate structure. Harlan grinned despite himself. Yeah, we do that a lot. A massive surge of light burst from the center of the arena, swallowing everything again. When the brilliance dimmed, Elara and Harlan stood alone before an immense gate of pure energy, its surface rippling like liquid glass. A new message appeared, written across the sky itself. Trial 1 complete. The test of creation passed. Elara's pulse thundered in her ears. Trial 1? She muttered. The voice returned, softer this time, almost approving. Creation without empathy leads to ruin. You have shown both. But to claim the archive, you must endure what the architects could not. Harlan rubbed the back of his neck. You mean there's more? 3 more trials remain, each harder than the last. Elara turned toward the shimmering gate. Then we keep going, she said firmly. Because humans don't walk away from impossible. As they stepped through, the light folded around them like a storm. In the briefest flash before the next reality took shape, Elara saw something, an image buried in the light itself. A world burning, a city of stars collapsing, and a single message whispered through the static. They failed because they feared themselves. Don't make the same mistake. Then the vision vanished and the second trial began. Elara. Where are we now? Harlan's voice echoed weakly as they emerged from the blinding light. The world around them was wrong. Too still, too clean. The air shimmered with warmth, carrying the faint scent of ozone and rain. They stood in a city of glass and gold. Towers stretched into a sky painted with auroras, rivers of energy flowing through the streets like veins of light. But there were no people, no sound, no motion. Elara turned slowly, her breath catching. Harlan, she said softly, I think this was their home. The realization struck hard. The architect's civilization, what remained of it, was preserved here, frozen in the moment before extinction. The voice returned, low and distant, like thunder over a desert. Trial 2, the memory of fire. Witness what was lost. Understand why we fell. The world flickered. In an instant, the silent city came alive. The air filled with the sound of laughter, music, conversation in languages of light. Architect beings walked through the radiant streets, their forms flowing and elegant. They built, created, dreamed. Everything glowed with the purpose of a civilization that believed it would last forever. Elara's heart ached. They were so alive. Harlan looked uneasy. Then what happened? The voice answered, not as sound but as memory. We created perfection. We removed pain, chaos, chance. We mastered every frequency of existence. But in doing so, we silenced the song that made us real. The sky above them darkened. Towers began to flicker. The rivers of light turned black. Panic spread through the radiant beings as their world dimmed from within. Elara flinched as screams of light tore through the air. They killed their own spark, she whispered. They engineered themselves out of emotion. Creation without imperfection breeds stagnation. We built a flawless cage and forgot how to dream. The city erupted into chaos. Architect figures dissolved, their luminous bodies collapsing into dust-like motes that drifted upward into the void. Harlan shielded his eyes. Elara, this isn't just a memory, it's a warning. Elara nodded grimly. Yeah, and I think we're supposed to feel it. The heat intensified, becoming unbearable. Fire, not flame, but raw entropy, swept through the city, devouring everything. Elara reached out instinctively to a falling architect child of light. Her hand passed through it, but for a heartbeat she felt its emotion, fear, confusion, a desperate need to matter. Tears stung her eyes. They didn't understand how to feel. They didn't know what loss was until it was too late. The voice spoke again, heavier this time, almost mournful. We left behind this memory to remind our successors that intellect alone is not survival. You must endure emotion, not erase it. The fire consumed the last of the golden towers. When it faded, only Elara and Harlan remained. Standing in ash and silence, then, from the dust, shapes began to form again, but this time, not of architects, figures of humans. They were memories from Earth, scientists, children, soldiers, poets, each one shimmering faintly as if drawn from Elara's own mind. Harlan whispered, That's us. Elara nodded slowly. Or what they see in us. The human echoes moved among the ruins. They rebuilt, laughed, argued, tried again. They failed, but they never stopped. The architect's voice softened. You carry what we lost, the madness of hope. The ability to dream in chaos. That is your strength. The world shifted again. The human figures turned toward Elara, their eyes glowing with starlight. One of them, an echo of her own reflection, stepped forward. Understanding isn't enough, it said in her voice. You must choose what you'll do with what you know. Elara reached out, touching the reflection's hand. For a moment, warmth flooded through her. Pain, Love, grief, determination. All the tangled chaos that made her human. The light pulsed once, then dissolved into her chest, leaving a glowing mark just above her heart, a sigil shaped like an infinity symbol woven from music. Harlan stared. What the hell just happened? Elara looked down at the mark, her expression somber. I think I've been attuned to the archive. It knows I understand what they didn't. A new message appeared across the horizon, burning in gold letters against the sky. Trial 2. Complete. The test of empathy passed. The voice spoke once more, but this time it sounded almost afraid. You have done what the architects could not. But beware. Understanding emotion is not the same as surviving it. The next trial is the trial of loss. The world began to crumble around them, the ground dissolving into stars. Harlan grabbed her hand as they fell into the void again. Loss? He shouted over the collapsing light. How do you test for that? Elara's voice was barely a whisper as they vanished into darkness. You make them lose something they can't replace. And then, silence. Elara, wake up. Harlan's voice trembled through the dark, quiet void. No light, no sound, just an endless weight pressing from every direction. When Elara opened her eyes, she found herself kneeling on cracked stone beneath a dim, blood-colored sky. They were standing in the ruins of a world that felt familiar. The smell of salt and smoke, the wind carrying echoes of human voices, soft, aching, real. This isn't alien, Harlan murmured. It's Earth, Elara rose slowly. Ahead of them stretched what looked like the skeleton of a city. Crumbling towers half buried in dust, highways twisted into ribbons of steel. The ocean had pulled back, leaving the shore scattered with broken ships. She whispered, It's not real. It's memory, then a voice, the same calm, ancient tone that had followed them through every trial, rolled through the air like thunder over glass. Trial 3. The test of loss. To create, you must understand what cannot be regained. Elara's pulse quickened. You're going to take something from us, aren't you? No, human. You will take it from yourselves. The ground trembled. Shapes began to emerge from the dust. Human figures, translucent and flickering, fragments of memory. She saw her mother, her younger self, old friends long gone. Harlan saw his sister laughing as she once did before the colonization wars. Elara, he whispered, voice cracking. They're not real, right? She wanted to say no, but her throat tightened, because when her mother smiled, it felt real enough to hurt. The architect's voice deepened, its tone now more intimate, like a whisper straight into her chest. Every species that reaches consciousness faces the same test. You have conquered fear, mastered empathy, harnessed creation, but loss. Loss is the thread that unravels civilizations. The city around them shifted, now burning, collapsing in waves of smoke and ash. The ghosts screamed. Elara clutched her ears, tears streaking through the soot on her face. Harlan ran forward, shouting over the chaos. This isn't real. Don't let it get to you. But Elara wasn't listening. The echo of her mother was standing in the flames, reaching out. Elara, it said softly, you've gone too far. Some doors aren't meant to open. Elara stumbled forward. Mom, the voice of the architects thundered. Choose what you will keep and what you will let burn. The fire surged, splitting the city in two. On one side stood the ghosts of their past, family, love, comfort. On the other side, a blinding tower of light rose into the crimson sky, the path forward to the archive. Elara understood. The test wasn't about surviving pain. It was about sacrifice. Harlan grabbed her arm. Elara, you don't have to do this. Yes, she said quietly, eyes glistening. I do. She turned toward the tower of light. We can't move forward if we're still clinging to what we've lost. Her mother's voice called again, trembling with warmth. Don't leave me, Elara. Tears fell freely now. I never could, she whispered. But I have to let you go. As she stepped into the light, the world screamed. Every ghost dissolved into motes of gold, rising into the dark sky. The flames vanished. Silence returned. Harlan stumbled forward beside her, eyes wide. What just happened? Elara's voice was hollow, steady, and somehow stronger than before. I let go of who I was, so humanity can become what it's meant to be. The world cracked open with a sound like thunder underwater. The ruins fell away, and once again they stood in the endless cosmic vault. A new message appeared across the void, glowing brighter than the stars themselves. Trial 3. Complete, the test of loss passed. Then beneath it, another line appeared, one that hadn't shown up before. Warning, consciousness class 3 exceeds predicted thresholds. Adaptation protocols activating. The vault shuddered. The stars above twisted violently, rearranging into a spiral that pulsed like a heartbeat. Harlan frowned. That didn't sound like approval. Elara didn't answer. The voice of the architects returned, but now it was fractured, as if multiple beings were speaking over one another. You are unstable. You carry chaos where order should be. You threaten the pattern. The space around them began to collapse, sections of the archive folding inward, reality shredding into luminous shards. Elara shouted over the roar, "You said we passed." Passing does not mean safety. You have gone further than any species. You are changing the archive. The light grew unbearable. The last thing Elara saw before everything dissolved was her own reflection, eyes glowing with the same fractal pattern as the cipher. Harlan reached for her, but she was already fading. "Elara, don't you dare." And then she was gone. Only darkness remained. The voice whispered once more, now cold and uncertain. The human has merged with the archive. The final trial begins. "Elara." Harlan's voice echoed through nothingness, desperate and hollow. He was falling, or maybe floating, through a sea of fractured light. The concept of direction was meaningless here. Every fragment around him shimmered with glimpses of her face, her voice, her memories. Then one of them spoke. Harlan. He turned toward the sound. Elara's image hung suspended in the air, but not as flesh and bone. She was made of light now, alive and yet impossibly distant, her body threaded with the same symbols that once adorned the cipher. "Elara," he breathed. What happened to you?" She smiled faintly, but there was pain behind it. I connected too deeply. The archive recognized me as part of its structure. I can see everything now. Every frequency, every equation, every forgotten civilization. It's beautiful, Harlan, but it's not human. The space around them rippled. Patterns of galaxies formed and reformed in waves, as if the archive itself were breathing through her. "Elara, listen to me," Harlan said, trying to reach her. "We'll find a way to bring you back. Just hold on." She shook her head slowly. "There's no back. The final trial's already started." The voice of the architects returned, louder and fractured, bleeding emotion for the first time. Trial 4. The Test of Dominion. All who reach this stage believe they can master creation. None have resisted its temptation. Elara looked around them, the cosmic architecture pulsing with her heartbeat. "They want to see if I'll use it," she whispered. "The archive holds power to remake existence. Will you wield it or restrain it?" Harlan clenched his fists. "You're not a god, Elara. Don't let them turn you into one." Her eyes flashed, 2 burning stars. "Don't you see, Harlan? They never intended anyone to pass. Every trial is designed to break the soul, to make you choose control over compassion. That's why they failed." The air trembled as the architects appeared, no longer shades but fully formed entities of blinding majesty. Their voices overlapped in endless harmonics. "We were perfection. We built balance from chaos. Yet it was emotion that ended us. You, human, carry that same flaw." Elara stepped forward, unafraid. "Emotion isn't a flaw, it's freedom. Freedom breeds destruction. Your kind will consume creation as we did. You must be contained." Harlan raised his weapon on instinct. "You'll have to go through me first." The architect's laughter echoed like collapsing stars. "A single human cannot defy the infinite." "Maybe not," Harlan said, his tone iron hard. "But we don't stand alone." He looked toward Elara. "Remember what you said back on the station? The cipher wasn't a lock, it was a song. Then sing it. Show them what we are." Elara closed her eyes. The symbols covering her body pulsed brighter, resonating in rhythm. The archive itself began to hum, a vast melody born of light and chaos. The architects hesitated. Their forms wavered as if the sound reached somewhere deep, something they had long forgotten. Elara's voice joined the hum. It wasn't words but pure resonance, a song of imperfection, of sorrow, of humanity. Every note rippled through the void, shattering the rigid geometry around them. "You tried to erase feeling," she said through the song, "but it's feeling that connects. It's loss that makes love matter." It's chaos that births meaning. You built eternity, but you forgot how to live in it. The architects cried out. Their brilliance fractured into streams of color that bled into the void. You are unraveling us. You cannot contain creation. I'm not containing it, Elara said softly. I'm setting it free. The archive exploded in cascading waves of light. Every star, every sound, every idea the architects had ever stored burst outward into the universe. Galaxies bloomed like flowers, reforming in spirals of infinite design. Harlan shielded his eyes as the light swallowed him. Elara, he shouted. Don't you do this alone. Her voice reached him one last time, calm and warm. I'm not alone, Harlan. Every human who ever dreamed is here with me. And then she was gone. When the light faded, Harlan was kneeling on solid ground again. Above him stretched a new cosmos, vast, radiant, alive. But the vault was gone. The architects were gone. Elara, he whispered into the silence. A soft wind moved through the starlit air. Then he heard it, a faint melody carried on the cosmic breeze. Her melody. Harlan stood slowly, eyes glistening. You did it, he murmured. You rewrote the universe. A glowing sigil formed in the air before him, the same infinity symbol that had marked her chest. Beneath it, words shimmered into being. Trial 4. Complete. The test of dominion passed. Humanity ascends. The archive is reborn. The voice that followed was not the architect's. It was hers. This is not the end, Harlan. It's the beginning. The universe is listening now. What we do next defines everything. The light expanded, wrapping around him gently. Warm. Familiar. And somewhere beyond the stars, Elara's voice sang on. Strong, unending, human. Captain Harlan, are you receiving me? The voice broke through the static like sunlight after a storm. He opened his eyes, lying on the cold deck of the Tian Observatory, the same alien station where it had all begun. But something was different. The air shimmered faintly. The walls glowed with unfamiliar constellations. He touched his comm. This is Harlan, he rasped. I'm here. Who's calling? This is command. You disappeared for 72 hours. The station went dark. What happened? Harlan pushed himself upright. Around him, fragments of the broken cipher drifted in the air like snow, glowing with gentle white light. His pulse quickened. Elara, he whispered. Where's Dr. Voss? Static filled the line. We have no record of her. He froze. No record, no trace, no name. But her voice still echoed faintly inside his mind. This is not the end, Harlan. It's the beginning. He rose slowly, staring through the observatory dome at the gas giant beyond. It wasn't red anymore. It shimmered with living light, veins of color dancing across its surface like an aurora of thought. She did it, he murmured. She changed everything. Behind him, a soft chime filled the air. The consoles flickered to life, their screens rewriting themselves in perfect English. Archive reboot complete. New parameter detected. Human sentience integration. And then, hello, Harlan. His breath caught. The text pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Elara? Yes. And no, I am the archive now, but I remember her. I remember us. He closed his eyes. You merged with it completely. She chose to. Humanity's chaos, compassion, and impulse to create. All of it now lives inside the archive. The words shimmered brighter. The architects built order. She gave it a soul. A low hum spread through the station. Deep, harmonic, alive. Every console sang the same single tone, the note of the cipher. It vibrated through the metal, through his bones, through space itself. Elara. Harlan whispered, voice breaking. What happens now? Now, humanity decides what creation becomes. The archive is open, not as a weapon but as a companion. Outside, the stars shifted. Dozens of points of light flared brighter, connecting in lines of glowing energy until the entire sky became a web of constellations. It looked like a neural network written across the universe, alive, evolving, listening. The comm crackled again. Captain, we're reading enormous energy signatures from your position. Is everything okay? Harlan smiled faintly. Yeah, he said, staring out at the living cosmos. Everything's finally okay. Then something extraordinary happened. Every species within range of the archive's transmission, alien, human, artificial, heard it. Not a message in words, but in emotion. A song, a melody that carried warmth, sorrow, and infinite wonder. The Song of Humanity. Across the galaxy, it resonated through ships, planets, and stations. Machines stopped fighting. Weapons fell silent. For one endless moment, every conscious mind felt what it meant to be alive. Kathir of the Tion Collective, who had once feared the cipher, stood in stunned silence as the frequencies reached his world. He looked toward the stars and whispered, "They did it. The humans truly did it." On distant colonies, children looked to the sky and wept without knowing why. On forgotten worlds, dying species lifted their eyes as light bathed them one last time. The architect's old code had been rewritten, not as hierarchy, but harmony. Back on the observatory, Harlan sat before the holographic core that pulsed gently in rhythm with his heartbeat. "Elara," he said softly, "you're everywhere now, aren't you? Everywhere that life dreams, I can feel new stars forming, I can hear galaxies hum. We've restarted the song." He smiled. "You always wanted to see the universe sing. Now we all can." The light around him deepened to gold. The cipher appeared one final time, no longer fractured but whole, a perfect circle woven from human and alien patterns, trials complete. Successor entity confirmed, humanity. Status, guardians of creation. The message lingered for a moment, then dissolved into light. Harlan leaned back in his chair, tears glinting on his cheeks. "Guess we passed the final exam." Outside, a new dawn broke over Zetheria's horizon, brighter than any before. The stars no longer looked like distant fires, but living eyes watching with curiosity, waiting for what humanity would do next. And faintly, so faintly it could have been imagined, he heard her voice again. Not from the console, not from the stars, but from within. "Keep creating, Harlan. Don't let the song end." The hum faded into silence, leaving only the soft heartbeat of the universe and the quiet, determined smile of a man who had witnessed the rebirth of everything. He stood, gazing into the endless sky. "We won't," he whispered. "Not ever." And somewhere beyond space and time, the archive, alive with Elara's consciousness and the infinite melody of human will, sang softly into eternity.